Hello and welcome to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. This podcast has evolved over the 5+ years since it first launched. From now on, I'm going to be talking about deepening your connection with yourself, taking inspired action, and really trusting yourself and your intuition. And also mindset, of course, but mindset of all kinds, not just business mindset. I think. Things are changing for me, as you may have noticed if you've been following me online or listening to this podcast, so anything goes here. I hope you stay along for the ride. Thank you so much for joining us today, and now let's get into this week's episode. Hello and welcome to the Into the Woods podcast, episode 352. This is your host, Holly Worton, and I'm back with another solo episode. Today, I'm talking about uncertainty and how to deal with times of uncertainty. As I record this, we are in week 4 of lockdown here in the UK, and things are starting to look like we don't know how long this is going to continue. I originally thought that after the first 3 weeks, we would be told maybe a next 3 weeks, but they still haven't updated it. So I really don't know how long this is going to continue. And things are starting to get canceled and shifted around and changed again for this year. So I'm aware as I record this that my life hasn't been really affected all that much by the lockdown. And this is the perspective that I'm coming from. I normally work from home, and my business hasn't been affected at all by the virus. Work is pretty much as usual. I'm used to working from home. Things are kind of pretty much the way they usually are, except that limited to how often I can go out in the day. But I know a lot of people have been affected by this. So I'm aware that other people are in a much more delicate situation than I am and are suffering even more from this uncertainty. So I wanted to acknowledge that going into this. I know I'm coming from a very privileged position because I haven't been affected that much. So this episode is for anyone at any range of affectedness who is experiencing uncertainty in these very strange times that we are now going through as a result of this lockdown and this virus. So I went into this year with a very clear plan for this year, a very ambitious plan, and I was worried that I might not be able to hold up to that plan because I had a lot of books that I wanted to publish this year, a lot of projects that I wanted to get working on, had a lot of courses that I'd signed up to take, and now that's all kind of getting thrown into uncertainty. Obviously, this hasn't affected my projects in the sense that I still have the same amount of time to get things done, but I'm not necessarily feeling as creative, and I certainly can't go to a hotel to do my workations. So things are a bit difficult in terms of producing my projects. But things have started changing. My 2 woodcraft school courses that I was taking, my ethnobotany course and my wildlife tracking course, were postponed to May. But at this point, honestly, I don't know if we're going to be able to even start in May. My second year of my shamanic plant spirit healing apprenticeship has been canceled. That was just 4 weekends that were going to take place this year, but we've decided to cancel it because, it doesn't make sense to start this halfway through the year. So that's probably going to get postponed for next year, but who knows? So I'm starting to feel the uncertainty, and I know a lot of people have felt this uncertainty earlier than I have. And a lot of people are feeling uncertainty with their businesses and with their jobs. So a lot of people are probably feeling even a bigger sense of uncertainty than I am. And wherever you are on the spectrum of uncertainty, acknowledge that this is stressful wherever you are. Just because you may be experiencing less or fewer problems than other people, that's doesn't mean that you're not experiencing stress. I think we're all going through a very stressful time, no matter how much we've been affected. So, how to deal with this. I think the most important thing is to accept the things that you can't control. And I think this is something that a lot of us have been kind of rebelling against. We can't control the lockdown. We can't control things that have been canceled. This is it. So if we have been laid off from our job or furloughed, we can't control that. If our business has been affected for whatever reason, we can't really control that. I mean, there are things we can do to change things, the way we do things, but this virus, this lockdown, has affected a lot of us in ways that we can't control. So I think we need to start by accepting that. Yes, it sucks. In bigger ways for some people than for others. But there are things that we can't control. So we need to start out by accepting that, because it's really hard to move forward, and it's hard to create a new plan, and it's hard to pivot with our existing plan until we accept that there's a lot of this that we cannot control, no matter how much we would like to. So start with acceptance and use whatever process you use to work through acceptance. Very interestingly, as I was recording this, I just found myself going into the whole brain posture, which is something that we use in Psych K. If you don't know what that is, it's not something I can teach to you, but if you Google it, you can find other people teaching it online. It's a seating position that can be really good at reducing stress and anxiety. Very interesting that I went into that. So that is one thing that you can try. So as you think about the situation and as you think about accepting the things that you can't control, like the lockdown, like any cancellations or changes or disappointments that you may be having, try sitting in that position. And as you reflect on all of these things that you can't control, maybe do some gratitude work, some ho'oponopono, whatever it is that you use for acceptance and forgiveness, and maybe some meditation, whatever works for you. Everyone's going to have a different way of doing this, but do use the techniques that you're familiar with or try something new as you go through this acceptance, because there are a lot of things that are out of our control. And this may be an ongoing process. You may need to kind of continue to remind yourself that we need to accept these things that we can't control, because there's no point in suffering. Let go of expectations. We need to update our goals and our plans based on this new reality. And we may need to keep updating our goals and plans as reality changes. So, based on how much longer lockdown is going to continue, no one really knows at this point. I've had some phone call conversations with different friends and groups of people, and a lot of people think that things aren't going to really be freed up until August. And the first time someone said that to me, it was like, oh God, I can't imagine being like this until August. But who knows? You know, it might be August, it might be July, it might be June, it might be next month, May. I don't know. None of us know. So it helps to let go of our expectations. So I've been going through my list of goals and plans and projects and seeing what needs to be updated. So some things are obvious. I've had to cross some things off my list. So one of my plans was to walk the Camino Portugués earlier this year, last month, and write a book about it. That's not going to happen this year, and it's not going to happen next year, because next year's a holy year and there's going to be a lot of traffic on the trail. So that won't be happening until 2022. Something that's going to be delayed for 2 years. I also had plans to walk the Camino Inglés this year, probably in October. Right now, I've got a question mark next to that. The way things are going this year, who knows if I will be able to do that in October or not? I don't know. So that's got a question mark. Other walks that I was planning to do this year also have a question mark. I don't know when this lockdown is going to be lifted. I don't know if I will be able to do any more walks this year. Kickboxing tournament I was supposed to fight at in April. That didn't happen. The next one is in June, and that's got a question mark by it. Maybe that will go ahead, maybe it won't. I haven't heard anything about it, so I'm just kind of waiting with my question mark. Get my black belt. I'm definitely not going to do that on the summer course because, for various reasons, the winter course is kind of my next goal, but that's got a question mark by it. yeah, so there are a lot of things that have question marks because I don't know if I'm going to be able to achieve them this year, and some things have been postponed for the year after next. So go through your goals and your plans and reschedule things. And if you can't reschedule them, put a question mark. But don't necessarily delete them because, we don't know what's going on. Monthly bookcations. I've done my January, February, March bookcations. April, probably not going to happen because hotels are closed. Published the second edition of my South Downs Way book. April. I've not been as productive with my own personal book projects this year, but it is something that is still doable for this month. So I've actually just commissioned the new book cover from my book cover designer, and I will be working to hopefully finish that by the end of this month. Finish the project of my new editions of Mindset books. The first 2 have been released. I've got to get working on the second 2, but I've got until the end of the year to do that, and that's doable. If Trees Could Talk, the Spanish edition, I've been sitting on that for the last couple of weeks since I got back from my trip. I hope to get that out either this month or next. Actually, now that I'm saying this, I'm just going to put May on it, and if it happens before then, good. But I think May is reasonable. I've got a planner that I'm going to be publishing by the end of the year, probably the end of October. That's not really affected. And my first 5 short reads books, I haven't published those yet. I've been sitting on the first one, but I've got all the covers designed and I'm really ready to go. So that's kind of how I've gone through my list of plans and projects and goals, and been new dates to some and just put question marks by other ones because there's some that I just don't know at this point. But actually going through that list has really helped. I did that before I did this recording, and then I kind of adjusted some things as I'm talking to you. But even going through that list and looking through it makes me realize I've still got my plans, I've still got my goals, I've still got my projects. I've just needed to adapt and put some things on hold. Now, if you are the kind of person that really can't handle the uncertainty of having question marks next to things, then add dates that seem reasonable to you. So I'm going back to my plan. So things that have question marks. So the Camino Inglés, I would like to do that this year in October, but if it's not this year, it's going to be 2022. So if I couldn't handle that question mark, I could just pop 2022 on it and then know that I'm going to do that in 2 years. My kickboxing tournament, don't know if that's going to happen in June. I'm happy with waiting to see, but if not, I would just look for the next dates for that and just put kind of the furthest date in my calendar. I think there's one in November, maybe. There's 4 in the year, and I think November's the last one. So I could just pop that date on the calendar because hopefully things will be good enough by November to do that. Getting my black belt in the winter course? I don't know. I could just cancel that out and put summer course 2021 in there. So if you can't handle the uncertainty of having question marks next to things, just put a future date on it and then reevaluate as you go. As I said, we're going to need to keep updating our plans and goals and projects as reality changes, as we see what the new dates are for lifting lockdown, and as we see what our new life is going to be like once lockdown is lifted. Because I think at this point, we're all pretty much clear that we aren't going to be going back to normal after this. We're going to have a new normal, but we don't know what that new normal looks like. So we're going to have to keep updating our plans as our new reality settles in. And as the new phases of our new reality settle in, because this is probably going to be kind of phases as we come out of lockdown and come into the new reality. So focus on what you can control. Focus on working on the goals and the plans and the projects that you can work on during lockdown. So I can work on my South Downs Way book. I can work on my Trees book in Spanish. I can work on my business books. I can work on any of the books that I've got in my list. My short reads books. I can work on all that. However, I haven't necessarily been great at being creative. I haven't been great at getting the work done. So I've been doing client work, I've been doing the important stuff, and then my personal projects have been kind of put on the back burner. I've been working on them little by little. And So I've just been doing what I can. So focus on what you can get done, but also maybe give yourself permission to change the dates on those things. If you're not feeling creative now, if you're not good at getting stuff done because you're having trouble focusing, adjust your plans. Give yourself permission to take more time to get stuff done, and give yourself permission to maybe not do anything if that's what you can do. Do what you can and give yourself permission to be flexible. I think that's really, really important. Make new plans. So now is the time for a lot of people, especially people who were furloughed from their jobs. This could be a good time to learn new things, make new goals, make new plans, make new projects that are viable, that you can get done during this time. If you've always wanted to write a new book or write a book, write it now or don't. If you're not in the mindset to be getting new stuff done or learning new things, don't. This is a great opportunity to do that. But if you're not feeling well, don't. If your mental health is what needs working on, work on that. If your self-care is what needs working on, work on that. I've done a couple of episodes the last 2 weeks on getting help from nature with your self-care and getting help from nature in these times of uncertainty. So if what you need now is to take care of yourself, give yourself permission to do that. But if you're doing fairly well, make new plans to learn new things or to start new projects. Do what you can do. And if you're not feeling well enough to learn and do new things and create new projects, don't beat yourself up for that. Just accept the situation for what it is. I know a lot of people are posting a lot of things online about, how to take advantage of this time, but not everyone can do that because not everyone's feeling well enough to do that. That is fine. Do what you can. And again, maybe self-care is the most important thing for you to do right now. Maybe taking Epsom salt baths and reading books is what you need. If that is the case, do that. And that is okay, and that is enough. So do what you can, do what you're capable of. And give yourself permission to have ups and downs. Recognize that these are stressful times and that uncertainty can be stressful. Be kind to yourself. So I was lucky in that I had my 2 weeks away in the woods, which set me up to be a really good place. First week of lockdown, I was on fire. I wrote 5 blog posts, like really extensive blog posts. I was getting stuff done. I felt great, and since then it's been kind of downhill. So I've had my ups and I've had my downs, and I expect that I'm going to have ups again. So just give yourself permission to do what you can, to do what you need, based on how you're feeling today, this week. Things are changing constantly, and you will have ups and downs, and that's okay. And recognize that whatever you feel is okay. Feeling good today is okay. Feeling bad today is okay. And it's okay to feel good even when others are not feeling well. So I felt a lot of guilt the first week when I felt really good and I was just super hyper focused. And I was on fire with my work. A lot of people were having rough times that week and I felt guilty about it. Try not to add to the stress of this situation by making yourself feel guilty for feeling okay. Appreciate the days that you feel okay, the hours that you feel okay. Appreciate whatever you've got. And give yourself permission to feel good about feeling good. Because there are going to be some days where you're not going to feel good. And that's okay. It's all okay. But again, try not to add to the situation by making yourself feel guilty. And try to avoid spiraling downward. So I've been avoiding the news, avoiding the conspiracy theories. I'm only looking at the vital updates. So I will go on to gov.uk every day or every couple days to see if there's been an update. And that's pretty much all I do. I'm looking at the official news. And if there isn't any, then I click away. I'm not reading all of the stuff that's online. I have a lot of friends that are really getting into a lot of the conspiracy theories that are online. Whether they believe them or not, they're finding them interesting to read, to explore, to look at. And I don't know. If that is helpful to you, do it, but it's probably not helpful to most people. So avoid reading stuff online. Just only go for the vital updates and avoid the other stuff. When you're feeling bad, when you realize you're feeling bad, do something to keep yourself from spiraling down and getting worse. So stop what you're doing, go for a walk, get some exercise, take a bath, read a book, whatever. Make a list of things that make you feel good and use that list when you're feeling bad. So the other day, I was not really being productive, not really having an easy time at the computer, not really being able to focus. And so I just stopped what I was doing, took a walk, came back, and I was able to get stuff done. So when you realize that you're not feeling well, stop it and do something to turn your mood around. Have a list of things that turn your mood around. So for me, going for a walk is good. Writing a gratitude list is something that has always helped me to turn my mood around. No matter how bad things are, there's always 10 things that I can find to be grateful for. So I just open up my journal, write the list, and then I usually feel better. I can't remember a time that I've ever felt bad after writing a gratitude list. But have your list of things that will turn your mood around. Have another list, and maybe it's the same list, or maybe there are overlapping things, of self-care activities. So ramp up your self-care during these times. For me, reading a good book helps, taking an Epsom salt bath, going for a walk. Have a list of self-care activities that make you feel great, that make you feel nourished. Have a list of foods that make you feel good. A lot of times I think we tend to turn to comfort foods, which may or may not actually make us feel good. Yesterday was an eating day. I do alternate day fasting. Yesterday was an eating day. Breakfast, I had a great breakfast. Probably had more carbs than I needed to, but I was fine. Lunch, I was craving fried foods. And I got some fish and chips takeaway. And I felt like shit afterwards. You know, it was great in the moment, and then afterwards I just felt like I'd eaten a brick. So be aware of what you're eating. I know what foods make me feel good, and it's really kind of high-fat, high-protein foods, like breakfast foods. Eggs and bacon make me feel good. With avocados, with grilled tomato, grilled mushrooms, those kinds of foods make me feel really good. They make me feel really nourished, and they're very supportive when I'm fasting. Like when I'm in the eating phase of my fasting, obviously. So those are the foods that make me feel good. I know that. I need to eat those foods, not carby fried things that are comfort foods. You know, it's good in the moment and I felt horrible afterwards. So be aware of which foods are nourishing to you, which foods make you feel good, and which foods do not, even if they are foods that you consider to be comfort foods. And be aware, you know, before you open your mouth and put something in, how it's going to make you feel. Finally, get support. Call friends. Call people from your social groups. So my apprenticeship had a call on Monday, which was great. Some friends from kickboxing had a call on Monday as well. I've had my Master Gut this week. We've actually decided to ramp up our Master Gut calls to weekly rather than fortnightly. So get together with your groups of friends and have a get-together on Zoom, on Skype, on Facebook Messenger, wherever. But call your friends, get support, get help. I've found that to be really, really useful, and I found it to be really, really lovely. I was just thinking the other day how much I missed people from kickboxing. I haven't really been attending the online classes, and I miss seeing people. And then I hadn't been on Facebook over the weekend, and then all of a sudden, a Facebook Messenger call came in from one of the women in my kickboxing group, and I saw that they had arranged to have a call at this time. So I got into my office, sat down, joined the call, and it was so great to speak with them. And we've decided we're going to do this again once a week just to catch up. And it was just so good to see them. Even though we're not seeing each other in our normal kickboxing environment, we were just kind of sitting at home on our computers or on our phones. It was good to see people. So maybe set up some calls for people that you know from exercise groups or from, I don't know, work if you're social with work people. Or just people from different groups in your life, and reconnect that way. You know, it doesn't have to be like an hour-long call. It could be 10, 15 minutes just to catch up. Or be flexible in case it lasts longer. I don't know. Do what you need to do, but it can be really, really beautiful to connect with these people that you're used to seeing in your offline world. So, those are my suggestions. I really hope that you're doing well during these times of uncertainty and lockdown. And I hope that we get an update soon so we know at least what this next phase is going to be like. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if they just said it's going to keep going for another 3 weeks and then we'll reconsider. I don't mind reevaluating, but it would be nice to have a next phase of this. That would be really useful to me. But I like plans. So this uncertainty is unusual for me. So again, please feel free to drop me a line and let me know how you're doing. I've been asking people on my email list to reply to my weekly newsletters and let me know how they're doing. And I've really been enjoying hearing from people. So whether you're doing okay, or whether you're doing not okay, or whether you're somewhere in between, feel free to email me at holly@hollyworton.com or find me online and get in touch. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear how you're doing. You obviously are hearing from me every week on this podcast, so you know how I'm doing. Feel free to share how you're doing. And thank you so much for listening. Next week's episode is an episode with Joanna Hennon that we actually recorded before the lockdown. It's about how to be comfortable when life is good. And I actually thought about whether I should change the date on this because it feels kind of incongruous now that we're in this lockdown and we were in a totally different place when we recorded it. But I've decided I'm going to, at least as of now, I'm going to go ahead and release that because I did, even during this lockdown for the first week, I felt really uncomfortable that my life was pretty good. So I think it is relevant even during these times. And who knows where we're going to be a week from now. That's going to go live on the last Monday of the month, so the 27th of April. Who knows where we're going to be then? We might be running free. I doubt it, but who knows? So that's all for now. I'm going to stop rambling. Thank you so much for listening. And remember to visit hollyworton.com/352 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you. Thanks so much for listening to Into the Woods with Holly Worton. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for topics that were discussed, at hollyworton.com. That's HOLLYWORTON.com. If you'd like to connect with other listeners and get support on your journey, I would love for you to join my private community on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. That's patreon.com/Holly Worton. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next week.